Otroligt! Han försökte bara sluta röka, men istället fick han en psykiatrisk diagnos och förlorade sina rättigheter.
Hans pengar försvann också, för att inte tala om att han spärrades in på mentalsjukhus. Men om du tycker det psykiatriker gör mot individer i rätten är hemskt, vänta tills du får se vad som händer med familjer.
Children are taken away from parents every day in these juvenile courts because a person with a PhD or an MD after their name comes in and says, I've shown ink blots to a person and they may be a risk to a child. Just in my little state of Massachusetts here, there are 11,000 children in captivity taken away from families at any one moment. And almost all of those children are being drugged. And our own commissioner of children and families testified under oath that they drug 88% of the children that they take out of the families.
88% drogas. Det är nästan i varje fall.
Och det är bara toppen av isberget. Psykiatriker över hela världen använder domstolarna på många sätt för att beröva människor sina rättigheter och förstöra familjer. Titta här.
Psychiatry has affected my family through the family law court rulings. The family law court has a court-appointed child psychiatrist who, it appears, determines the future of the child.
It's just like a business in the court system that they forced you to undergo all of these psychological evaluations, and you have to pay thousands of dollars, but at the end of the day, it has been supported by no evidence, nothing.
They'd said to me, Deb, you have a choice. Either you bring your son to get medicated, or we'll take your child away from you and put him in a home that they'll medicate your child. And then good luck. Basically, they were saying, good luck, Deb, to try and get your son back, but you'll get him back medicated anyways.
And they put her in hospital, and that's when the psychotropic drugging started with Becky. And at that stage, I had no say over it.
They refused to let her go. They would not let my daughter go unless she take medication.
This was again a recommendation from the psychiatrist that once my son was radically ripped from his home and literally kidnapped and put in a new home with a perpetrator of domestic violence and of sexual assault, and is where he now lives, this psychiatrist said that he was never to have any counselling and never to see anybody.
To have your family just disrupted like that, ripped out from under you, really, your whole life, just gone like that. And then you have to fight every day to get him back. It was very devastating.
In some ways, it's worse than a death because it's unresolved and you know what the truth is. And you feel like giving up and not fighting back for that custody of that child. But you can't. There's just no justice.
Det här är förskräckligt. De sliter sönder familjer baserat på godtyckliga diagnoser som grasserar i rättsväsendet.
Ja, det gör de.
So it's unfortunate that the courts have bought into the DSM. It's unfortunate that the whole psychiatric profession is wedded to the DSM. It's unfortunate that the psychiatric profession is in bed with the drug industry, and it's unfortunate that drugs that don't work are the common prescribed drugs for all manner of conditions in children and in adults. It's the wrong way to go.
Åh nej, inte de också.
Jo, tyvärr. Barn är nu en stor målgrupp för psykiatrin. Antalet barndomsstörningar i DSM har skjutit i höjden från 3 störningar 1952 till 44 idag.
Det är 15 gånger fler.
Och ändå erkänner DSM att den inte ska användas för att diagnostisera barn.
In early childhood, it may be difficult to distinguish symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder from age-appropriate behaviors in active children, such as running around or being noisy. We basically don't know the diagnosis from normal childhood. That's what that's saying.
Uppmärksamhetsstörning med hyperaktivitet. Det är vad psykiatriker kallar barn som inte sitter still, som springer omkring och klättrar. Vanligt beteende för ett barn, eller hur?
Just det. Och 20 miljoner barn världen över har diagnostiserats med en psykisk störning.
Så istället för att låta barn vara barn,
säger psykiatriker till föräldrar att deras barn är psykiskt sjuka och behöver psykofarmaka.
It used to be that you were on the playground, you'd have the weird kid, you had the shy kid, you had the goof off, you had the hyper kid. You can't have that anymore. Now it's all medical diagnoses.
For them to come up with new diseases and new issues and diagnosis in their book, it doesn't correct bad behavior, okay? They can give children all the pills they want. It still doesn't correct bad behavior.
The thinking still is, you must fit into this mold. And if you don't fit into this mold, there's something wrong with you. And if you're not the person who designs the mold, too bad for you.
A child is labeled and then they're brought to professionals who are trained a very particular way. They're all being trained that if the child fits into this category, then we should consider putting them on Ritalin because that's what they do. That is the protocol.
The way the Ritalin will be marketed to the parents is that they will say, this is a drug to calm your child down. What they won't say is that methylphenidate is a form of speed. It's a form of amphetamine, and what we're actually doing is overdosing your child on speed.
It's a stimulant, so naturally it's going to increase heart rate, increase blood pressure, and you put a kid out on a football field on a hot summer day, and his risk of having a cardiac event of some sort has just gone up.
Jag har hört att stimulantia som ges till barn som fått diagnosen uppmärksamhetsstörning är kemiskt väldigt lika kokain.
Ja, de är så beroendeframkallande att USAs myndigheter placerar dem i samma kategori som morfin, opium och metamfetamin.
Så vilka ska psykiatriker droga härnäst? Spädbarn?
Precis. De använder vad som kallas Diagnostic Classification 0-3 eller DC-0-3. Det är en mini-DSM för spädbarn och småbarn. Lyssna på det här.
We already targeted our school children with ADHD and bipolar. That's already done. That was done 20 years ago. And we're moving younger with DC-03 to the 0 to 3 age group where they're trying to make popular the idea that it's okay to medicate 0 to 3-year-olds.
The idea of a program to determine whether a child from birth to the age of 3 has a mental illness is so preposterous, so absolutely insane, that it's simply an additional part of the insanity that is now extant throughout this country. I cannot think of a program that is more insane than that.
How are they going to diagnose a 1-year-old or an infant with a psychological disorder? How do they know?
You almost have to ask ourselves, if our societies become sick, what are we doing to our fetuses, our infants, our children that would make us need to have psychiatric medications?
We're rolling dice with life. We're rolling dice with our children who can't even discuss it with anybody. They have no control. They are the helpless victims, and the ones who are supposed to protect them and care aren't armed with the facts.
Om föräldrar visste allt detta skulle de vara ursinniga.
Absolut. Men se upp, för i DSM står det också att man kan få en psykiatrisk sjukdom från sina barn.
Du skämtar.
Så står det i DSM.
We're going to talk about some of the proposed changes that are suggested for DSM-5.
Jag har hört att DSM-5 är ännu tokigare än DSM-4.
Så är det.
You've got
374 named diagnoses in DSM. Well, guess what? There's going to be more in DSM-5.
Why do we all of a sudden need a fifth DSM-5? Psychiatry wanted to broaden the horizons of mental health problems, of disorders. They wanted to stretch the disorders so it would encompass more. And to do that, you know, they're going to add more diagnoses.
We need more diagnoses like we need a hole in the head, really. They're not serving a purpose for mankind, all these diagnoses. They're almost laughable, some of the diagnoses.
Skrattretande, alltså.
De snackar om samlarmani, om man inte slänger tillräckligt med saker.
Persistent difficulty discarding or parting with personal possessions.
Hetsätningsstörning om man äter för mycket.
Recurrent episodes of binge eating.
Och störningen hudpetning.
So it's recurrent skin picking resulting in skin lesions.
Är det psykiska störningar?
Och när det gäller barn finns det en ny störning som fångar in det stora antalet vars vredesutbrott inte ännu kan klassificeras som bipolär sjukdom.
They've created temporary dysregulation disorder to seem a little bit more mild of the condition and include a lot of the younger population in terms of that diagnosis. And what it essentially does, it just broadens bipolar disorder into a whole other new category. And where they don't fit into bipolar, now they can fit into this other diagnosing criteria.
Så nätet omfattar allt fler.
Fler än du kan ana. De överväger till och med en ny stämpel för de som spenderar för mycket tid på datorn.
Internet addiction diagnosis. You know, it's another example of, just taking something going on in the popular culture that's, pretty widespread and then finding a way to pathologize it.
I know people personally that spend 12, 13, 14 hours a day on the internet or social networking groups like Facebook. So there is something going on there. But is it a condition that we need to then label and drug? Absolutely not.